This is Creepy and Geeky. Welcome. I'm your host, Robert, and my guest today is Donna from the Donna Tha Dead podcast. Welcome back to the show, Donna.
Yay! I'm so happy to be back on your show.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. It's always fun having you on the show. Today, we are going to be talking a double feature of Ari Aster movies, Midsommar and Hereditary. Probably should have said Hereditary and Midsommar, but, you know, I like Midsommar more, so that's always going to be the first one that pops up. I don't know what it is. I didn't think I was going to like the first time I watched it. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was great. And then like every time I watched it afterward, it just like has solidified itself as being the better one for me. I love Hereditary. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I will tell you, next to John Carpenter's The Thing, Midsommar has turned into my other kind of guilty pleasure when I need a pick-me-up, even though it's not a pick-me-up movie.
Right. No, that is downer.
I put it on. Movie. Yeah, but there's something about it. I just love watching it. I love the way it looks. I love everything. We're gonna get into that.
Yes,
I'm jumping ahead.
Well, let's start with Hereditary, just because it is the one that came out first. It is the one that blew us all away in a like for a debut movie from out of the gate. Like, you know, when we talk debut movies, I mean, even Jordan Peele, you know, which we've talked about him before. Together on the show, that, you know, he at least came from somewhere. We weren't expecting what he gave us with Get Out, but he at least came from somewhere, so we knew who he was. But Ari Aster seemed to have come from nowhere, and hit us with Hereditary, and it was such a fucking gut punch. That movie is nuts. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing you're right about that. Like out of the gate, debut film, amazing direction and cast and story. I could not tell you how riveted I was to the screen when I watched this, and how horrified I was when I watched it. But I honestly felt like between Ari Aster and Jordan Peele and Eggers, I felt like a kid, because it was like horror movies were horror movies again. I don't know if that makes any sense to you whatsoever, and you people listening, but I got like this whole sense of glee, like, okay, this is where horror needs to be. And I know everybody always has that comment about elevated horror versus like regular mainstream. They're the same goddamn candy as far as I'm concerned. If it can have my mouth open and my eyes wide, just like freaking out at everything, it's done its job. So it's perfect to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that, you know, with these movies, with Hereditary especially, that when it came out, it was, I don't get scared at horror movies. Horror movies don't scare me. At best, they will unnerve me and creep me out.
Right.
But I don't really get scared from them. It's you know, and even jump scary type movies and stuff like that, they don't get me. I've seen so many of them at this point, and they telegraph their moves so much that it's, you know, you just know.
You already know what's coming. Yeah.
You know something's coming regardless. But that's what's great about Hereditary, is that when I watched that for the first time, I had no fucking clue what was going to happen. Like, it is a constant, and that's what I like about his movies, is that they are a slow burn, but they are slow burn that hits beats along the way that keep you riveted and unnerved the whole time, rather than just building to a, you know, taking an hour and a half to get to the last act and then giving us a last act that's crazy.
Right.
His movies kind of take you on that trip along the way and go, oh, I'm going to give you a little taste of something now. I'm going to fuck you up like early. And
Yeah.
then I'm going to keep the tension going the whole rest of the time because now you're unnerved. Now you're freaked out. And I'm going to keep ratcheting that tension up and then give it to you at the end. And
He does. Um,
that's what I like about his movies.
and I think, not to interrupt you, but I think what I
No, go ahead.
also like about his movies as well is that these are, well, I say normal, but these are relatively normal, let's say that way, relatively normal people going through unusual circumstances that
Right.
no one would have ever expected the outcome to be what they are. And in that aspect, he makes me think of Hitchcock because Hitchcock is one of my favorites because there's always an ordinary person thrown into extraordinary circumstances and either they rise above it or they don't. They either die or they don't. But with his movies, it's the same thing. It's like, it's a base for Hereditary. It's a basic family on the surface. It's a basic
Right.
family. And are we spoiling this so people know that we're going to be
Yes, yes,
talking about? Okay,
absolute
great.
spoilers are yep,
Spoilers
yep.
going to be out here.
If you
To
listening to my show, you know we got spoilers. I mean, that's
so
how it is.
yeah,
I've
I mean,
always had
really,
spoilers on this show.
come on.
Oh, I lost you for a second. Hold on. Donna's internet is not the best, so we are dealing with that. She will be back in a moment.
And like you said,
Oh,
it's a
there you are.
ratchet. Oh, did I go out
I
again?
lost you for a moment. Yep.
So he gives you like this roller coaster ride, like like you said, you're ratcheting. It's almost like you're going up a roller coaster and at inch, and then you go down and then you go back up. It's
Yep.
nuts. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no stopping once you're on this ride. And it's so beautiful. Everything looks like a painting in Hereditary.
Yes.
It looks just like her
The
perfect doll houses, her
oh
perfect,
man, the cinematography in both of these movies, but
beautiful.
let's try to stick to Hereditary for right now. But
Yeah, please.
yeah, because it's so easy to go veer off into and to really talk about both of them because they're both two sides of the same coin in a lot
They
of ways.
really are. I
But
was glad you said that.
yeah, and so but with Hereditary, it's more you're inside the house a lot.
Yep.
A lot of the action of the movie, a lot of the set pieces are inside the family home. And for anybody who doesn't know, this movie is about a family suffering through grief of the Tony Collette's mother dies.
Hmm.
And she had a contentious relationship with her, which you find out is based in some kind of supernatural, you know, craziness.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, that so she dies. Tony Collette's dealing with all that and the after effects of the weird relationship that she had with her mother. And then she's got this daughter who has issues, has is just a
She
funky
has
person,
a nervous tick where she
a
makes
nervous
the
tick.
kind of clucking noise.
Yeah.
Oh my
But
goodness.
she's weird for a reason, which you
Yes.
find out later. That spoilers, she is possessed by a demon. And uh but the demon does not want to be in her. The demon wants to be in the older brother. And so there is getting to the point of it all is this family suffering through first the loss of the grandmother slash mother,
Right.
and then uh, the the daughter ends up dying through a freak accident, which is the the first instance of craziness that happens in that movie that sets you on edge for the rest of the movie. Um, that's one of those moments that I was talking about is he sets that up. She dies in a such a bizarre way that it's it's just weird.
It's a horrific way.
It's
And
yeah, and it just
I
sets you on edge the whole rest of the movie.
because you're unnerved by the way that she died and then her brother's reaction
Yeah.
to the way she died. I mean, honestly, if I was him, I probably would have just checked out too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have even, how do you say that? How do you rationalize what you just
Oh, I
had
know.
happen?
Well, so I want to preface all this that both of these movies both deal in a lot of trauma. Um, and neither Donna or I are any kind of experts in trauma
No.
or grief or psychological issues at all. So we were just coming at it from very layman's terms. Um, we haven't had issues like these as far as I know. Donna hasn't. I haven't ever had issues like either one of these. So and just based in the actual traumas, not in the supernatural aspects that
Right, yeah. The
happen
the
outside of this.
the one thing
But
I will say, just to interject, because you are
yeah,
correct. I'm agreeing with you. I'm not in any way, but I will say, and not to be a Debbie Downer on the podcast, I did lose my mom in 2012. So
yes,
the grief that Toni Collette was going through, I was like, wow. I felt like somebody kind of really had to have lost somebody close, or he had to have known somebody, because it just seemed all too real, is I guess is the word I'm looking
mm-hmm.
for. Um, and my mother was, I had a great relationship with her, as I've said on my podcast a billion times. We went to horror movies, and that's how we bonded,
Yeah,
by movies. But um, I know we're going to jump to Midsummer, but the grief that she had when she had the loss of the child, compounded with the fact that she just recently lost her mother, I felt like Toni Collette just really made that character believable. It didn't seem
right.
hokey. It was like she was
Yeah,
already going through some stress and grief, and here she is having this happen. I can't even imagine the loss of a child, let alone, having to deal with that after you just lost a parent. So it was almost like she had bookend trauma
yeah.
at all at once. Um, but then we find
No,
out, like you stated, all of this stuff is a catalyst for what's going to happen in the rest of the film.
yeah, yeah. And then it's Toni Collette deserves an award for
Hmm.
like that performance. It was so messed up that she didn't. I mean, she won. I know she won some awards for it and everything like that, but not even to get an Oscar nomination for it just smacks of favoritism in that kind of thing. They really look down on horror and genre, like anything that's not a drama
They
picture.
really do, and that was such a commanding performance from her, because she had to run the whole gambit. I agree
Oh
with you.
man,
They're total snobs when it comes to horror performances, or
absolutely.
performances in horror films, and I don't understand why they're still acting. She's not out here with a hatchet or a machete, dressed up with a mask on. This is
Right.
actual acting she's doing.
Yeah.
Um, so to see her and be so gut wrenching. I mean, the whole cast was great, but my God, she carried the
Yeah.
weight of that movie.
She really did. Yeah. No, her grief, the way she carries that grief through the movie is palpable. It is, you can feel it in every moment that just her just breaking down so much, and just and the son too, the son's grief over the accident of his sister, just just that whole family is just dealing with so much grief on top of grief, and it's just, it just makes everything um that much easier for the cult that is targeting them to get their hooks into them.
To worm their way in, because they know
Yep.
that they're already vulnerable and they're already hurting. So why not give them a glimpse of something that they possibly could have?
Right.
Um, I felt the most for the son. Gosh, I can't
Yes.
remember it. I can't remember if he's Alex Wolf or Nat Wolf. I always
Alex
get
Wolf.
those brothers.
Alex Wolf.
Thank
Yeah.
you. His performance was great, because he's just wanting to be a kid. He loved his sister. He definitely was trying to do something to help her, because he realized that she was in a dire state, um, when right before the accident happened. And his performance was really raw too, because we have to remember he's still a teenager. He's not an adult. He's a child that's still he's navigating between that child and adulthood, and now he's caused this horrific thing that he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. And she's just so angry and lashing out. That speech that she gives at the table, that whole "I'm your mother, don't you talk to me," and I was like, holy
Oh
shit.
man. Yeah.
She's about to kill this kid. I mean,
Yeah.
every parent has been there, not to the extent of the trauma that they had, but to where you have to tell your kid, hey, bucko, shut the fuck up. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only mom that's
No.
ever done that. But sometimes you just have to let your kid know, hey, I deserve respect. I don't know
Yeah.
where you think you're talking to, or what this is, but that whole montage of her at the table where she's just going off, and I was just like, damn, I know
Yeah.
that. I know that's a mama right there.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I could think.
No, as a parent, you always have that breaking point. You do. You just there's a moment, and and you got to know when to pull it back. And in that scene, she does not pull it back.
No.
And that's where it makes it uncomfortable, because as a parent, you've done this, and you've gone, you've gotten that upset, and she does it a couple of times. It's not just there. It's also when she's talking to him, when she's at the end of his bed.
Oh yeah.
And just before she, it's a dream sequence type thing, lights them on fire. But it's just, as a parent, you understand that kind of just that overwhelming frustration with your child. And like I said, and you've got to know that if you're good, if you're a good parent and everything, that when to stop.
Right. Because once you say those things, you can't put that back in.
Can't
They've
put them
already
back.
heard
Yeah.
it. It's done. And thankfully, at least I hope, I've never said anything so detrimental to my kids, or like, holy crap.
Yeah.
You're right. That there's a point where you're like, I gotta stop, because if I say this, I can't take it back if I say this. But just the family unit is crumbling. And like you said, that allows the cult to just say, okay, well, that we can give you this opportunity to speak with your loved one from beyond. And like psychics and people that pretend to have communication with the dead in real life, they're like, oh, we can talk to. No, you can't. Stop. They're just
they prey on those
they want,
people.
exactly, because they know that you're vulnerable and you're sad, and this is a time where you're raw, and you want anything that you can do to make sure that you can talk to that person again. And
Absolutely.
this woman, she was so unassuming. It's almost like when you read those little storybooks where you see, like an old lady in the woods, and she's actually a witch, and she's going to eat the kids. That's what she was to me. She was just so unassuming.
I mean, that's kind of what she
nice
was in general.
Yeah,
she was kind of a witch.
just the premise of her being so nice, and oh, I knew your mother, and oh my God, it's creepy.
I mean,
as
that
all
should have been
hell.
her clue. She knew your mother. Okay, your mother was freaky too. You knew your mother was freaky. Like,
how did you miss that sign? That's like a red flag.
Yeah,
It's like you going out on a date with a guy. It's a huge red flag.
Oh man, it was just but I get it. As a person who, I don't have a great relationship with my mom. As an adult, as a kid, it was okay. As an adult, it got fractured. And I don't have that great relationship with my mom. So I can see where that kind of stuff, that maybe if my mom were to die, she hasn't died yet. And, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, because like I said, my relationship isn't the greatest with her. So, I'm sure I'll be sad. But, and I think that's where it comes from too, is that and I think it's even more, it's not even like, because it's not about the mother thing. It's really about losing her daughter, Charlie.
Exactly.
And it's having that person come into her life and say, hey, I can help you speak to your child from beyond. And you want more than anything to believe in that, because your child was taken away, especially when they're young, and you want to be able to believe that you can talk to that child again, and hope that they're okay. And
Right.
so preying on that grief like that is just, it's so insidious in this movie. I mean obviously it's meant to be, but it's just. And so, and I had another thought about this too, where the dad, played by
Is David Byrne? I can't
not
remember his
David
name.
Byrne, something Byrne. Yeah.
Oh, the David Byrne's Talking Heads, Donna. Duh.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's something Byrne. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. I'm looking it up real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so one of us got to look it up.
Gabriel
That's
Byrne.
gonna Gabriel.
So
Why didn't I forget him? Oh, Crying Game.
I don't know, but you know what the interesting thing was, that you mentioned Alex Wolf and you said his brother was Nat Wolf, and I was like, huh? So I went and looked him up, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't realize they were brothers this whole time.
Yeah,
So
I only know them because my children watched the Naked Brothers band. It was a Nickelodeon
yeah,
show, and they were
my
on it. They
children
were
did not
very
watch that,
tiny.
so I didn't. Yeah. So I did not know that. And so
Yeah,
like I've only seen Alex Wolf in movies, and I've seen Nat Wolf in a couple of things since then too, most predominantly The Stand.
yeah.
The
Alex
recent
is, I
Stand.
think he's my favorite. I've just seen him
Oh
in more,
yeah.
and he's just, to me, he's a better actor. I don't, I like both of them though. But anyway,
Yeah.
you were saying the
But yes,
father,
I
Gabriel.
was going to say that Gabriel Byrne's performance is great, but I think that the character of the father is very, he's kind of just like standing on the outside of everything.
He's
He's
kind of
not
one
really,
note.
he's not engaging. He's not jumping in
Nope.
and like telling her to back off of the son or anything, like, or anything. Like, he's not very supportive either. You don't see him really like supporting her in a lot of ways either.
He's kind of a milk toast character,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of a waste for him, but maybe because the focus wasn't about him, maybe that's
Right.
why he wasn't so predominant. But I wish he would have been a little bit more. I mean, I almost felt like, at at some point during the end of that movie, he was going to take that kid and haul ass because he was getting
Yeah.
fed up with her.
I wish he would have, based
I
on the
think it
things
would
that
have been
happened.
better, yeah. But he's such a great actor too, and I wish he had done more. But maybe that was his role, to be more laid back.
Right.
And the only reason I say that is I was speaking with a girlfriend of mine about this, and we were saying how it's really powerful that for Hereditary and Midsommar, Ari Aster decided to have women as the main role.
Right.
And they are just the predominant characters throughout the whole movie. Even though we have multiple characters that we see, the focus is always on them or the intent of those women. And I thought, shit, I didn't even think about that
Yeah.
part of it. So the men are kind of just, they're there, but
They're
they're
there,
not
but
really the
yeah.
focal point,
Yeah.
if
No, I
that makes
agree.
any sense.
No, yeah, I agree. I think that that's, very, very good on his part, that he's focusing on these, very good female led roles, that, Toni Collette and Florence Pugh, and giving them these really good, juicy, roles to bite into. And yeah, everybody else kind of just is supporting them,
Yeah, they're just
which I
kind
think
of
is
there to
great.
do their part, which is what the
Right.
son is there. I mean, the son is there clearly because
Yeah.
he needed
He's the
that male
host.
host.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is funny for a demon, but okay.
Yeah.
Thought you'd be kind of like whatever gender is available, but
Right.
I'm sure there must be some logic behind why it has to be male. I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. No, so it's, I and the some of the craziest stuff in this movie happens towards the end. Like
Oh, the end,
you
it's
know,
ramped up. Oh
oh
my
my. And
gosh.
that's why
Okay.
I'm saying, like, with him, his movies are great because they do have that slow burn to the big, like, third act craziness, which most horror movies do have. But like I said, he peppers in the stuff in both of these movies, because we get Charlie's death, which is a complete, like, what the fuck? And
Right.
then we get her breakdown at the dinner table. We get, all this ramping up to that third act. And I think the third act really kind of starts around um Gabriel Byrne's character going up in flames. Um
I would go back a little bit further. I think it
Maybe a
starts
little bit
ramping.
further, yeah.
I would go back to where Alex Wolf is in class and he does that thing where he
Oh yeah.
breaks his nose. I didn't
Yeah.
expect that. And I think they said he actually did break his nose when he did that,
No,
but
for real.
yeah, I think so. But it was so jarring to see that because, he kind of has that thing where he's possessed and his hand goes up and his face is
Yeah.
kind of twisted and his classmates are like, holy shit, what, is he having a stroke? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then he just bangs his head on and then shrieks out of it. And I'm like, okay, this is really creeping me out.
Yeah.
Like I
Well,
was
and then
really
that
creeped
light,
out.
that
The
weird light
little
that was
light
coming through the
beam.
hallway
Yep.
and everything is like, and I think that that's symbolizing the demon coming into him.
Yeah,
That
I think
the
that's
at that
that's
point.
the opening is it's starting to open. They know that
Yeah.
that gateway or that bridge to possess him is starting to open up more.
Yeah.
And then Gabriel Byrne goes up in flames, which I
Yes.
did not see that coming, and I should have.
No, no. Yeah. No, and that's what I
um,
love about this movie is the things that, like, especially for people who know horror movies, like you can predict stuff to a certain degree, don't get me wrong. But there's always going to be some surprises in movies. And that's what I love about them is that when they do throw you a surprise, like in this one, that you're just constantly, what? So him going up in flames was a complete, left turn.
yeah, because earlier she had burnt the page and her clothes caught on fire. So
Yeah.
when he said, "Oh, nothing's gonna happen," I thought, "Oh God, he's gonna throw that book and it's just gonna burn up." And then he just turns into like the Human Torch, and I'm like, "What the hell did I just see?" And then, like you said, it just keeps ramping up. It keeps going completely off the rails, and I
Yeah.
loved every minute of it, and I was creeped out by every minute of it.
Oh man.
Um,
It's just so crazy.
just going up in that attic. I don't
Oh,
have an attic anymore, but if I had one, I would be totally terrified that there'd be
yeah,
some
right?
creepy shit up there.
Oh my God. Well, and that's the thing too, is like you got to make sure your TV's at the right like balance setting because there's some shit in the background, both in the attic and then in the house itself that if you don't have your light balance right on your TV, you're gonna totally miss because there's a bunch of naked old people up in the attic,
Up in the attic.
just standing up there being creepy in the corners and shit, and you're like, what the fuck?
My whole thing
Um,
was how the hell did they come in when they were out the house? How long have they been up there? That's what
well,
I'm
there's that point where too, like where it goes from day to night within a click, and when it goes to that nighttime, there's all the naked old people outside, like
oh my
surrounding the
gosh.
house. And so it's like, okay, they're fucking coming, you know, they're creepy old naked people.
That's
And
a great term. Creepy old naked people.
creepy old naked people. Uh but then, you get him waking up and sensing something's funky, and his mom is hiding up against
In the
the back
corner.
wall. Yeah, in the corner. Super fucking creepy. Like, okay, so something's going on with mom now. Uh it's just like, and then she like, oh my god, the probably a jump scare that actually works is when she's in the corner of the living room and she comes running at him.
Oh my gosh.
Like, because previously she was up in the ceiling
Right.
when he comes down, and then she kind of scrambles off, and then she's in that corner and just rushes at him out of nowhere. And you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because you barely have a chance. If you do clock her before she starts running, you barely have time before she starts doing that to register that she's there. So like the editing, the lighting in this whole thing is just so good.
Yeah.
Um, because it just sets up so many creepy things and keeps you unnerved for the whole rest of the movie. You were just
Yeah.
completely off balance the whole time.
I would say the last 15 minutes, it's just I was gripping the side of my couch because I could
Yeah.
not figure out where this was going. And all I could think was like, this poor boy is gonna die, and it's not gonna be pretty when he does.
Oh man.
Now, did you go see this in theaters?
I did not.
I didn't
I saw
either.
both of these on video. I didn't get to see either one of these in theater.
I did get to see Midsommar in theater, and I was so glad
Yeah.
I did. But I did
Yeah.
not see Hereditary. I wish I had. But
Yeah.
I guess the moral of the story is grief is scary. That's my take from Hereditary. Grief is scary beyond belief.
And if your mom is part of some demon cult, run. Run far away.
I mean, I never in my wildest dreams. But we had the one thing I will say about Hereditary, and I know we're probably going to wrap this conversation up, but it was very neat how throughout the movie we had all of these subtle clues. We had,
Mm-hmm.
And when she was giving the eulogy at her mom's funeral, her mom had the necklace with the symbol on, and I think
Yep.
Toni Collette had a necklace. And then, who was it? Charlie was telling her, yeah, well, grandma said I should have been a boy, little things here and
Yes.
there. We just had all of these little clues that, yeah, something's not right. All of these things
No.
have been set in motion for this particular event to happen. So I did like that aspect of it, that they just,
Yeah.
kind of like with Get Out, they kind of subtly give you little clues as to where we're going.
Yeah.
But I never had that in my head that it was going to turn out the way it did. Oh, and the
No.
other thing I will say that still creeps me out to this day is when that body floats up into the treehouse.
Yes.
I don't like that. It creeps me out. I do not like, and I'm like you. I've watched enough horror movies that I don't get scared easily. I just get a little unnerved and my skin gets a little creepy crawly when I see that body floating up, even though my husband always
that's
makes
Toni
fun.
Collette's body.
Yeah, when that body goes, I cringe every time. He makes funny noises to kind of soothe it, like when the great pumpkin comes rising out of it and he does that ooh. So my husband will do that so I don't get so creeped out, but I can't watch that movie before bed. I can't, because I'm always thinking I see something in the corners and I can't sleep.
You see Toni Collette or some freaky old creepy old naked people.
Creepy old naked people. No. However, any other words what can we say about Hereditary other than Hail Paimon?
Man. Well, and going back to what you were saying about how he lays out those clues, he does that in both movies. Mm-hmm. And some are more overt than others, especially in Midsommar. And it's his movies are great for rewatchability. Because then you go back and then you're like, oh shit, he was laying this groundwork early, and you catch all the things you missed the first time, and then you rewatch it again and you still catch things you didn't catch before.
And that makes a great movie for me. I love when I can go back and see things. Even now, I can watch some of my favorite horror movies and I'll be like, holy shit, I didn't even notice that was so-and-so, or I didn't notice that was what they were doing. So it works on a great level. And whoever did his editing did such a fantastic job, because those day to night transitions where you just blink and you hear that little click and then it's nighttime. I love that. And they kind of did that again in Midsommar too, with a lot of the cuts. I really like the transition that they do.
I like those jarring cuts like that, because then it's just like, whoa, okay. And then because it's also a quick cut, because, going from that day to night in Hereditary, and you go to that night scene and there's all the creepy old naked people. Mm-hmm. But it immediately switches to another scene. Like, so you get a glimpse at something without, because you're just going, wait, what's going on over there? And then over to another scene. And it's like, oh shit, so it's nice. And again, rewatchability is high for these movies because of that reason alone. And pausing the next time, because then you just be like, okay, what the hell was that? So yeah.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah,
movie is a 10 out of 10 for me. Just because that grief aspect, I
yeah,
can I can relate to it. I'm not grief filled at this point in my life, other than with
right.
work, but other than with my job. But just to remembering what it felt like, that very raw kind of, oh my God, that's everything's bleak. That's basically how it was. And it's gut-wrenching to watch. It's gut-wrenching to watch them kind of go through what they're going through. And we always forget too, the husband was going through grief too. He lost a child too, but it's
Yeah.
almost like he lost a child and a wife, because she still wasn't properly healed from losing her
No.
mother. So
Right.
that whole family, it was hard to watch, but it's a great watch. I
Yeah.
cannot get enough of that
Exactly.
film.
Yeah. Same. Very much the same. Well, now on to Midsummer, which we both agree is the even better movie. Um, and it is this one is just fantastic. It's it's so good. It's what's really interesting about it is it's mostly set during the daytime. So it's horror that's not hidden by the dark, where a lot of movies are. A lot of horror movies are. They like to hide the seams and stuff, and like to do the jump scares and everything. And rather than doing that, he takes all that unnerving, you know, craziness that he had in Hereditary and sets it all during the daytime and
I
makes
think
it
that's Oh, go ahead.
even more uncomfortable.
I think
So
that's what I love the most about, and that's probably why Midsummer ekes out Hereditary for me, because of exactly what you just said. We're used to horror movies, scary things going bump in the night, but in an so-called idyllic setting that we have, it looks beautiful. Everything looks bright. It's just doesn't seem like anything would be sinister at all afoot in this place that they go. It's it's shocking to me how scary that movie is.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting about it too is that again, in this movie, he telegraphs everything. You don't know it until you've watched it and then going back for a rewatch, and then you see all the telegraphs, happening. But everything happens the way that he shows. I mean, literally shows you on a on a thing at the very beginning
At
on
the
this
very
little
beginning.
wall of art. He shows all the major events of the movie that's going to happen, and it's
I
fucking
absolutely
wild.
love that. I love
Yeah,
that it's right in your face and you have no idea. And the
yeah,
reason I love it is, my husband is, well, my husband's Caucasian, and he loves any kind of Norse mythology. He just loves mythology in general, but he was just looking at the tapestries and he was like, okay, this is gonna happen. This is gonna.
yeah.
I said, shut up. You don't know that that's gonna happen. He's like, I promise you, this is definitely gonna. I don't want to say what it was, but he's like, that's definitely gonna happen. And I was like,
Right.
holy crap, dude. And so we went to a very small independent theater when we went to see Midsummer, and there might have been 10 people in the theater. About halfway through, two of the 10 people left. They did not like Midsummer at all.
Oh wow.
Like, they were just like, what is this? No. And they just walked out. I could not understand how you could sit through half of a movie and walk out, but okay. Um
I mean, okay, though, sitting through half of this movie and walking out, I can kind of understand it because this movie is very, very unnerving. I mean, especially if you're not expecting that. Like if you have not seen Hereditary and understood what this guy was doing, at least in part, understanding how this guy has done, movies before,
mhm.
then I can see where getting about halfway and you just going, I don't understand what the fuck is going on, and this is too trippy and weird for me. I'm fucking out. Um, but that, I mean, but normally, yes, I would agree with you. But some people are weird. They can't
I don't
handle
I
things
just
like we
don't
can, Donna.
I guess so, but I felt like halfway we hadn't even really seen anything too bad. I mean, Yeah, it was a little unnerving and a little. I mean, the beginning is when was unnerving. That would have been the time to walk out if you were gonna do it. Should we talk about the beginning?
Her parents.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah,
even talk.
I
We
mean,
didn't
of
even talk
course, yeah,
about it.
because that sets up all everything, everything to come. So in this movie, of course, Danny, played by Florence Pugh, is um, suffering from grief after the death of her sister and her parents. Her sister hooks up a long hose from the car and tapes it to her face and to the faces of her parents and seals the doors and everything like that. And they all die of carbon monoxide poisoning. It is horrific. It is
It
just,
is.
it is one of the most, like, you don't see them dying. You don't see the process or anything like that. You just see the after effect.
Well,
Um,
what's kind of unnerving to me, or when we saw it in the theater, when you see the parents, yeah, the sister definitely has that affixed to her mouth with tape,
yeah.
but her parents are just in bed sleeping. Like
Oh,
they
right,
just look
right.
like they're
You're right.
sleeping. So I
Yeah,
wasn't thinking anything about it, but then the color in the room looks a little weird and their skin looks a
yeah.
little blue, and you're not really sure if this is just the color of the bedroom or is this the color of the people until they start doing like a long, slow pan
And to the
of
door, right.
right, and then you see all of the like the firemen coming in and then the
Right.
exhaust and when I saw that I was like, good God, what in the hell is going on? And I think Danny had been trying to reach her parents and her sister had left her some cryptic message, so she was very upset. She was nowhere near them, so she couldn't really go by and check how everybody was doing. Um, and she was just getting worried. So then we also see her boyfriend, Christian, who is, I guess, out with his friends. He's kind of on the verge of wanting to break up with Danny because he feels she's too clingy. I
Right.
think is what they were trying to say, that she was just always calling him, always wanting to be with him. Um, and then he gets a call from her, and we hear on the phone this terrible, terrible wailing. Um, that was a haunting sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, Florence Pugh's performance in this movie is phenomenal. It is definitely one for an actress who's, who's been around a little bit, but is still, like, I think this is her major breakout role.
oh yeah,
That
most definitely.
for somebody who's at the beginning of their career to have the depth of acting that she has in this movie, to me, is just phenomenal. It is most definitely on par with the performance of Toni Collette in Hereditary. Did I lose you again?
Yeah, I didn't I
Oh,
only heard you say at the beginning of her career. I didn't hear anything else.
oh, okay. So I was saying at the beginning of her career, that this performance is, the depth of this performance is, you know it very similar to what Toni Collette did in Hereditary. Like, she's just that good of an actress in this, already in the, towards the beginning of her career. So
Fighting with my family was the first thing I saw her in, and she's so adorable. Like she's so cute. I didn't expect to see this kind of raw performance from her, and I
right.
really feel like we went through all of the emotions that Danny was going through. We were all going through it as well.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's a really great performance, and now she wasn't nominated for this either, was she?
No, not that I know of. I mean, she may have been nominated for, the lower awards and stuff like that, but I don't think she even got anywhere close to be nominated for anything, in the Emmy, Oscar range, or Golden Globes or anything.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
I will tell you that my friends and I always say that Hereditary is a film about grief and losing a child and a parent, but Midsummer is actually the perils of a bad breakup.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No, and I think that's what it is that Ari Aster, um you made a breakup movie. I think he had a a bad relationship or whatever. um I don't know if it comes from a good place on his end,
Right.
him making the movie. I don't know the particulars of it. um but it's but it's definitely a breakup movie. It just on the most extreme scale. um it's but I mean, Christian is inherently just a bad person in general, not even just a bad boyfriend, but he's just a bad person.
He is a
um
he's horrible.
he is horrible. He is only going on this trip to, piggyback onto, um oh god, I can't remember his name.
I know
um
you're talking about his friend's thesis.
his friend's thesis, and trying to be all like, oh well, I'm just doing it specifically on this one, you're doing it on all of them. And it's like, okay, stop. You're trying to, you know do this. You just suck. You're just
He's awful.
an opportunist. And yeah, he's just a horrible, horrible person. He forgets her birthday, and because he doesn't care.
Yeah, that's
He's
like,
just a
dude,
shitty person in general.
that's what I'm thinking. It's like the most basic thing when you start dating somebody, and clearly from the way that they were carrying on, they had been dating for some time. I'm sure
Yeah.
she remembers his birthday and all of the other stupid goddamn things that he likes to do.
Yeah.
So you couldn't remember that one thing, especially when around the time of her parents and her, I mean, I know that had been some time had passed, but dude, just my whole thing, and I'm sorry, I'm one of those people. I would rather you just tell me the truth than lie to me and lead me on. And literally all he had to do was tell this girl months ago, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Right. Yeah,
And
he
it
would have
wouldn't have
saved
been
her
his problem.
some whole heartbreak. Yeah.
Whole heartbreak,
Just
you would have moved on, she would have moved on, and that would have been the end of it. But no, your
yeah.
dumb ass didn't do that. So your dumb ass is gonna end up where we're gonna end up when we get to talking about it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's
but I
just
mean, this all of these guys, like every single one of them are horrible, horrible fucking people. Each one of them is just, is just bad to the core. Their friend, played by Will Poulter, he's he is just gross and just a general bore. He doesn't care about anybody, and pissing on the tree. And he just they all deserve what they get.
they all deserve what they get. I think the only people that I would say probably didn't deserve it were the other couple, Simon and I can't remember what
Yeah.
his girlfriend's name was, because they purely just went there because they were invited. But
Yeah.
then again, they
But
did say that the other guy used to date her first, so maybe they weren't
yeah.
entirely all that pure.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know that much into their side of things because they don't really go into it. And I think Danny
Yeah,
doesn't really deserve anything that she gets either. She's, you know, I don't think she's necessarily a bad person, um, at all. And she gets corrupted by the cult.
I don't
Um,
think she's a bad person. I think it's the same thing like with Hereditary because they know that she's still raw with grief and that one that she also doesn't have a family. She has
right.
nobody to.
She's got nobody left. And, and that's the thing. Pele preys on her and her grief, and, and uses that as the end to pull her into their society.
Yeah,
Um,
and it
and,
works because
and it
he's
works, of
he's
course.
more affectionate, he's more endearing, he's more,
More
you know,
attentive.
his yeah, attentive, his whole monologue to her, does he feel like home to you? And I thought, holy
Yeah.
crap, they have had this in motion. Well, even when she came to the
Hmm.
apartment, when they were talking about going on the trip, and Christian was like, well, she's not gonna go. I asked her if she wanted to go, but she's not gonna go. Pele already knew she was definitely gonna go. He was gonna make sure that she went. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
telling her about the village and, kind of just, letting her know that, he also didn't have parents and the village took
Yeah.
care of him, and all of that's warm when you don't have anybody and you feel alone. I mean,
Right.
um, it was it was very shocking, but in some aspects you could see where it was going as the movie progressed, because like we said, Christian was a piece of shit. I mean,
Yeah.
he was the worst guy. um and I don't know if have you seen the Midsummer, the extended cut?
Yes. Yeah. The director's
Yeah.
cut. Yeah.
So when they show all of those scenes that we didn't get to see, like, there's one point where he's just completely dogging her and just saying, "Well, I didn't tell you to come. You didn't have to, you
Right.
came here." And I
He's
just
totally
thought,
gaslighting her in that scene.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Holy crap. This is awful. This is
No.
toxic." And then you
No, the
wonder
director's cut gives you so much more depth
so
to their
much more.
relationship. Like you can feel it in the regular version and everything, but with the director's cut, you get so much more depth to how big of a piece of shit he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes you just go, well, yeah, he really deserves what he gets at the end.
Yeah, he deserves
Um,
every bit of it. Like,
yeah,
I didn't feel bad from him at all with the version that I saw in the theaters, but when I saw the
yeah, no,
directors, I was
yeah.
like, "Oh yeah."
It just deepens your hate for him.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely. And
yeah,
I'm more of a two sides to every story kind of person, but nah, there
there's no
wasn't a
two
side to
sides in
his
this story.
hell
Yeah,
no. Uh-uh.
no, no. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. When it comes down to it, should they all have died? No. But, it's a horror movie. So, of course, you're rooting for them all to die, just like we always do in any horror movie, especially slashers or whatever. You're like, okay, Jason, get him, because you want to see the kills.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, they needed 9 sacrifices. I mean,
yeah.
you showed
So they
up.
make these people as despicable as possible so that by the end, you're just like her at the end, smiling as it happens.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's just like, but at the end of all of this is that she's not in any better of a position with them than she was with Christian. They are
No.
just as bad as he is in terms of what they've done. They have manipulated her to get her to be part of their you know community.
They're now
And
community, and she's the newcomer, and she's not going to leave. Why would she? These
no,
people are, they empathize with her. They feel everything she feels. That
yep.
one scene with all of those
Mm-hmm.
maidens from the mate, and they're all crying with her after she sees Christian in the act, and then everybody's crying and they all feel that same emotion. Who wouldn't want to feel connected to someone like that? Who wouldn't want to
Right.
have
Yeah.
someone share your pain and your anger and your love and all of these things? um it was such a grand movie. I can't tell you how much I love it. Like, I I literally
I am.
cannot.
Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites. It has become one of my very favorite movies because it is so, like, because of all the craziness that it is, that it's just, you are unnerved constantly through that movie because the visuals are all off kilter. You see the plant work and, like, just, the plants and trees and stuff like that breathing, and it's, everything that goes into this just keeps you off balance the whole time, and even more so than in Hereditary. And especially, again, because it's all lit, it's all in sunlight, and you were just like, nothing can be hidden, and
Right.
it's amazing.
And I think too, because once again, like we talked about at the beginning of this discussion, nothing bad usually happens in broad daylight. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
expect to
Or
see
at least you can
horribly.
see it coming.
Right, but you don't expect to see, like, geriatric people leaping to their death from a cliff, and then the aftermath of what happens when they do. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, that was, I think that might have been about the time that those people walked out. Now that I
That's
think
what I'm
about
saying. I
it.
figured that was probably when they were like, nope, I'm
I
out.
think it was. I think that was the exact moment when she took that dive off of the cliff, and then they said, "Oh, nope," and then they just left. um, so the one thing I do love about Midsummer is that I guess we can say that it's folk horror, but what I hated about it was people kept saying it was like The Wicker Man. I don't
Oh, it's
think
nothing
so.
like The Wicker Man.
I don't think it's anything in that realm. I think The Wicker
No.
Man is The Wicker Man and Midsummer is Midsummer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The only thing that you could say is they're in a remote location. That's probably
They're in
the
a
only thing.
remote location. They Nordic cult activity, but beyond that, it's nothing similar at all. Like, yeah,
No.
when I started, because I saw people doing that, and at the time I hadn't seen The Wicker Man,
Mhm.
so I finally got to see The Wicker Man, and I was like, what are people talking about? This is nothing like Midsummer.
Other than
So
them going to the place of their own free will, that's and
yeah,
you know it being a remote community full of people who practice a particular religion or a particular way of living, that's about where that ends. I mean,
yeah,
for me, period.
yeah,
Um,
agreed.
it's
Yeah,
I will say I love the things in this film. I love the little the subtleties, like how you were saying with the grass and all of the flowers kind of breathing
yes,
and blinking, especially when they take the tea, or she takes the tea. I think, what is it, like a hit of, and I don't want to say it's acid. What was it that they were taking?
I'm not sure. Yeah,
It was some
some
type of
hallucinogenic. Yeah,
hallucinogenic. Yeah. So then, when we see that part where the grass is kind of going into her hand, I think that was our way of already knowing that she's going to be kind of rooted in this community. You know
mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yep,
And little things like we talked about before are very unnerving, but the lighting is a big thing too, like we said in Hereditary, if you're not paying attention, because there's that one part where she's almost having a bad trip. Maybe it was mushrooms. I think it might have been mushrooms.
yeah, I think it was
Um,
mushrooms in the beginning. Yeah,
yeah, because I think he said mushroom tea. So she's starting to have a bad trip, and then she walks off, and then she sees the group of people and their faces kind of change, that kind of trippy. They all start laughing, and she walks off to that little room, like in the middle of the field. I guess it's
and
supposed to be
yeah,
like a restroom. And then she goes in and cuts the light on, and her sister is behind her.
yeah,
Um, and I was like, oh my God, did I just see that? It's another one of those things, like, did I just see that, or am I not seeing that? Did I see that? And then we have that scene where she's being crowned the May Queen, and then her parents are kind of walking through the crowd of the people. It's a
yeah,
lot of things if you're not really paying attention, and then when you, like we said, upon that rewatch, you're like, holy shit, I didn't even notice that those were her parents coming at her.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it's a great movie. I think we're gonna have to trademark the creepy naked old people, because we get a lot more of
Hey,
that
we
in
get
this
some
one
creepy naked
again.
old people. Yep.
TM, creepy naked old people. Um, but we also get that scene. We've talked about most of the movie, but the whole purpose of getting Danny there is to have her join this community. We already know this, and her friends have been there, drawn there, so that they can be the sacrifice for this uh, event, this ceremony that they've got going on. But then we also get Christian,
Mm-hmm.
because Pele gives us this whole story of the village. Sometimes they're allowed to mate with outsiders, and Christian has been picked to mate with, I can't remember the redhead
Maya.
lady's name, Maya. So she's got red hair, he's got red hair. They're like, oh, perfect match. And they
Right.
give him this my husband dubbed it the erection tea, and they they give him the tea, and so he goes in there to do his thing with Maya, because she's of
Right.
age, and we've got all of these naked women just
Naked women moaning along with them.
moaning along, because they all emote the same feelings. So
Right.
while Maya is going through this whole copulate, this act of copulation, and she's getting aroused and making all of these moaning sounds, they're doing it with her. So Christian's like, what the hell? But he
Yeah.
doesn't stop doing
But
it,
he keeps going.
because they gave him the tea. That's
Yeah.
my husband's rationalization. They gave him the tea. I was like, he's a dirtbag. He would have done it anyway. But
Yeah.
I digress. So then it's a very unusual scene, because the lovemaking is going on, the sex is happening, and they're all to the point where one old lady is grabbing his ass and pushing him in.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing that, and I was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I remember when the trailer came out, we saw Danny looking through the peephole and we heard the noises, but we didn't know what was behind that door.
Right.
And then to see what was going on behind that door, it was amazing. Not because they were all naked, but because who in this day and age would show a lot of older women or women of different
Right.
sizes and shapes being naked for the purpose of this one ritual? And I thought, this is almost like something from the 70s. Like you would never
Right.
see people do something like this now.
You don't see stuff like
Um,
that these days usually in movies at all. So,
no, not at all. And it really does kind of tie in that whole cult feeling that they
right.
do
Yeah.
everything together as a community, which, I would be thinking orgy, but this is not an orgy. This is
No, because it's even
purely to
this.
get a new. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say because it's just the same as with Hereditary. They're all naked in there, but it's not for sexual reasons. At least as far as we've seen, anyway.
No,
It is for whatever reason they have. But it's
right. The
not.
the
It's just
ritualistic
the
reason. Yeah.
ritualistic. Yeah.
I
So
I was I was so impressed by that because we're thinking it's going to be something completely different. I mean, from the trailer, for the many months that we've seen the trailer, I was like speculating what the hell was behind the store.
yeah, yeah,
Completely different, but I was completely satisfied with it because that too also needed to happen. One, so that they can get new offspring in the village, and two, so Danny would be able to stumble across it. Because they tried to
yeah.
keep her away from it, but you notice they didn't really try to keep her
They
away
didn't
from it.
try very hard. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, you don't
yeah,
have to worry about that. And then she just goes
yeah,
over there to look. Well, let me just take a look at Lou. Um, I was, and that alone must have been mind-boggling to her because here she is already having struggles with this guy, and she sees him not only having sex with this young nubile person, but
right.
she's also, he's in a room with like 20
Surrounded
other
by all these
women.
other naked
Like,
women.
did he
Yeah,
have sex with all of these? Because that's where my mind would go. Did he have sex with all of these women? What's going on?
right. Yeah, what's going on?
But it really kind of solidifies that he has a vision of the type of movies that he wants to put on the screen. This is probably
Yeah,
something that he either wanted to emulate from a movie that he saw a long time ago, or that he just came up with and said, that would be interesting if we had people doing ritualistic sex. Because some communities probably somewhere did something like this, I'm sure.
yeah,
So it boggles my mind how something simple, and hearing it behind a door and then seeing it, it was just, my mind was blown.
yeah,
Um, Another great visual that we get too is, I guess we can go ahead and say it because we're basically telling the movie.
yeah.
When
Well, let
they
me let
have,
me
oh, go
let
ahead.
me let me let me add on to what you were saying because then um after Danny sees him, he realizes that she's seen him and he goes running out and he's running out
Stark naked.
buck ass naked and
That was
and
the
you
palest
know
ass I'd ever seen in my life.
and we get full frontal, hanging
We
dong and
do.
everything. And so apparently that was not how it was originally supposed to be. He was originally supposed to grab the robe and go back out there, with the robe on. And
Really?
yeah, but the actor suggested that because we've seen this in plenty of other movies where the women are out running around naked, in a vulnerable situation, that he did it this time, and that more power to him that he took on that responsibility of, hey, I'm going to take on this, rather than obviously a woman wasn't going to be in that role anyway, but flipping the script on that. And we've started to see that a lot more in a lot more movies. We see a lot more man ass and dong a lot more, especially in comedies. We're starting to see that a lot more over the last, I would say, 10-20 years.
Yeah.
And so it's become a funny joke more than anything else.
I
And
think
so
that's
it's
brilliant though,
interesting to see that. Yeah,
because even the way he ran out there, he's trying to cover his business, and you can tell he's embarrassed, he's ashamed, he's also kind of, unaware of what he should do right now. Should he try to find
right.
Danny? Should he find Chloe? It
And
really
it's a
does put him in a
completely
vulnerable
vulnerable
state.
moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he goes to hide, and then we have
Yeah.
Simon, who's up there, and he's already been obviously blood eagled or something.
Yeah.
They've got flowers stuck in him, and he's terrified by that. And then you get the pocket sand. We
Yeah.
did the pocket, the throw the dust in his face, and then he's just like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Pocket
I watch
sand.
Always Sunny, and that's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and there was a joke where they pulled out pocket sand. But they kind of drug him with this concoction of dust here, and
Yeah.
then we cut to, here's Danny. She's been gaslit, she's been lied to, she's grieving, she doesn't have anybody, and she knows after seeing him with this girl, she doesn't even have him at this point anymore.
Right.
She has nobody. It's the end of the festival, and we
Yes.
see Danny, who's now the May Queen, and now she has the decision. She, as the May Queen, she can make the choice of the final sacrifice being someone from the village, or the final sacrifice can be Christian. And I saw that, and I didn't even wait for them to finish saying that. I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yep.
That's the end of him.
Yep.
And I wasn't mad at it. I was happy at it.
I don't think anybody's mad at that. And if you are mad about it, you are in the wrong.
You need to go and watch it again. Or think of any ex-partner that you've ever had that did you wrong. Because trust me, that would have been the easiest. You wouldn't even have had to ask me. I would have been like, that guy, just take Kristen. And then we also forgot to say at the beginning, they have a bear in a cage, and one of the people said, well, what's up with the bear?
What's with the bear?
It's a bear.
In a cage.
They were like, it's a bear. We find out why there's a bear in a cage, because also part of this tradition is they have, I guess, certain archetypes. They have a fool, and they have different people, and we get to see what they do with the bear. They stuff Christian in the bear, and burning down the house, I guess, is what it is.
Burning down the house, yeah.
Sometimes I said David earlier.
Yeah, there you go. It just all comes back around.
It does. My brain is everywhere. The ADD runs rampant. But
that was a nice way to connect it. That was really good.
It is. Do I connect the dots, or do I connect the dots? But
you definitely connect the dots.
I try. So, once again, we see Danny, and she is crying. The little sacrificial tent is burning with all of the sacrifices, all of the people that came there willingly, and some who were volunteered from the village, and Christian, who is still alive but immobile in a carcass of a bear.
Yeah.
And everything is up in flames, and we see Danny wearing her May Queen flower robe, and she's crying and hysterical, and everybody in the village is also crying and hysterical. And it has got to be one of the trippiest scenes I've ever seen.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But I absolutely love that. And then we get to see Danny smile at the end.
Yeah.
And I thought, damn, most people go, good for her. That's a good for her moment.
Yeah.
But it's perfect, because in that moment, she is happy. She has been unhappy for so long. And
right.
Even though go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, even though it's definitely a sinister moment and a sinister smile, but she's elated because she doesn't have to feel that way that she felt with him. The burden is gone, and in her head, she's cathartic. Got a new family. Yeah, it is completely cathartic. It was amazing to me how he correlated both of these movies with someone being crowned in some kind of ceremony.
Good call.
It was the end shot on both of these films. It's just like when you get the Jordan Peele with the one tear, when you get that stare with the one tear going. It was brilliant because we get the crowning of I can't remember Alex Wolf's name, but you get the crowning of his character, who is now Charlie or Paimon, and then you get Danny with the crown, and they both have that tight shot. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's really good. I didn't even clock that. That's good call.
I absolutely love those movies, but I love Midsommar more.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, I love them. I love them both. They're both so good. But Midsummer just edges out just enough for me that I 100% wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah.
That it is the better movie for me. Um, that I would say sometimes that Hereditary is probably the better movie in some ways, but I
Hmm.
think just in terms of overall for myself, for my own pleasure, Midsummer definitely ekes out the win on that.
I think so too. It does for me. I think I
Yeah,
can tell you I've watched Midsummer more times than I've watched Hereditary, and
same,
Hereditary's been out longer.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, like you said, Midsummer is one of those movies you can put on, and if you're weird like us, you could just enjoy it. You could just put it on, and it's a weird comfort movie. Um, and it's just one of those ones that you could put on. And I could see for you, you've mentioned before that part of the reason why you like the thing is when it's hot out, you like to put on the thing, you can feel cool. Um, with Midsummer, you can put that on and feel spring like.
absolutely. And I love when they're sinister spring movies because you never
Oh
see
yeah,
that. You never get to see where it's just bright and sunny. Everything looks so beautiful. I mean, people are wearing crisp
it's
white
definitely
clothes
rare.
and, you know, granted they're wearing runes and, I'm not getting into the whole people have had comments about it being white supremacist. I'm not going there. But
Oh yeah,
I know you've seen those. But
yeah.
and there's a reason that they want to keep their community pure, and I'm sure that's one of them. But, I can't get into all of that because that takes the joy of watching a movie out
Right.
for me. I just don't get into the whole yang yang of it. I just want to be entertained and enjoy what I'm watching, and that's what Midsummer does for me.
Yes.
It's also one of those ones that, like you said before, upon that rewatchability, you catch
Mm-hmm.
so many things. So the one thing I'm going to say is at the very beginning of the movie when we see the parents in
Mm-hmm.
their bedroom is covered in flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the wallpaper is nothing but flowers.
Yep. Oh yeah. No. And later on, there's the sequence where she's being carried on the platform to the to the dinner table or whatever.
Right.
And as she's passing by in the trees, it you see an image of her dead sister's face, like
With the hose
with the
coming through it.
hose. Yep.
I saw that and I freaked out. I didn't
Yeah.
catch that until like the third or fourth viewing, and I think I was
Yeah.
reading trivia and they said that, and I was like,
Yeah.
let me go and look at that because I don't remember that. I remember her sister being behind her in the little closet thing, when she got the light on, but I did not
Right.
remember that. And when I saw it, I was
No.
freaked out.
Yeah,
And
I didn't
those
see it until
things,
after I read it also. I was like, "Oh, wait.
yeah.
What?"
And those things are also part of why we know Danny is meant to be part of this community because all of these living things are
Right.
kind of just folding her in, you know what I mean? And
It's
the
pulling her in. Yeah.
it's pulling her in. And
It's
the
more
other
that
thing,
corruption of her. Yeah.
too, and you probably noticed it, in Danny's apartment, there's a painting of a little girl with a
With the
flower
bear.
with the bear. And I
Yeah.
thought, good gracious. Besides the opening credits when you watch it and they tell you all of it in tapestry,
Yes.
that's brilliant. And then even when Christian is being asked to speak with, I think the head elder of the Hark, is it the Harga? I keep
Harga.
forgetting that.
Yeah.
So when he goes to speak with the head elder, she has him sit in a little room and he's sitting in a room and
Mm-hmm.
right across from him there is a picture of a bear on fire. And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, we really don't pay attention to all of these things. And when we do pay attention to it, it's like every step of the way you had breadcrumbs. It's once again like a story tell. You're just
Mm-hmm.
they're little breadcrumbs every step of the way. So I'm excited to see whatever he does next. I think what is it, Disappointment Boulevard?
Yeah. I'm a little bit on the fence about that. I'm sure I will enjoy it. I'm sure it'll be an interesting movie. Um, Joaquin Phoenix is one of the main actors, and I'm not a huge fan of his. So um so it'll be a little bit different from
Why'd you say it like
I'll
you
be
were
on the
nervous to say that? Who cares if you're not
no
a
no
fan?
no no I don't care. Like I
You
don't think
just
he's
kind of,
I don't like him as an actor. He's okay. Like I'm sure he's okay as a person or whatever. He makes okay movies and stuff. I liked him in Signs. But beyond that, I've never been a huge fan of Joaquin
I
Phoenix.
like him in some things. I'm not the biggest fan. I mean,
Right.
it depends on what he's in.
Yeah, exactly. Most of what I have seen him in, you know, or have seen that he's played in, has been movies that I haven't cared to even watch. They
Mhm.
just don't strike my interest. So
I'm a little curious on this one though because they have it touted as a comedy horror, which
yeah,
I
a
mean,
nightmare comedy.
I'm curious how that's going to work, and I'm
Yes.
sure we'll be talking about that, and it'll probably be better than what we anticipated anyway. But
Yeah, for sure. I'll
I'm a
still be
little,
seeing it
yeah,
regardless. So, I mean, based on this track record right now, I'm excited for whatever he comes out with.
yeah,
Same
I agree.
again with Jordan Peele. And you mentioned Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers has been a mixed bag for me. I loved The Witch. Didn't really care for The Lighthouse. I thought The Northman was fantastic, but it's one of those movies that I just probably won't watch again. It's a fantastic epic movie
Hmm.
that I'm glad I got to see, and I got to see it on the big screen. I don't think it's one of those movies that has a lot of rewatchability for me. So it's just
Yeah,
it's not so popcorny that I can rewatch it.
yeah,
So
The Witch definitely was right out the gate one of my favorite things to
oh
watch,
yeah.
and still is. And I'm on the fence with The Lighthouse. I like it, but I don't like it enough to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
my
it
son
is
is
just
really
so
upset
bizarre to
about
me.
that.
Oh yeah, my son loves The
Yeah,
Lighthouse.
mine does too. Wait a minute, how old is your son?
Uh 25.
Oh yeah, that's about right. My son's 28, so
Oh
that
yeah,
that
yeah.
that age range, it must hit them different than it hit us, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Which is
But
weird because like, you would think that something like that would have hit us better than it would have hit them, but yeah.
yeah, for whatever
It's just one of
reason,
those, yeah, it's just a little too bizarre for me.
yeah, for
So
whatever reason, I do like it, but it's not a high, like I would watch The Witch and The Northman more than I would watch
yeah.
The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
If it's on, I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not gonna like put it on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, exactly.
Um, and I did see The Northman in theaters, and I absolutely loved it. But then again, I'm a little biased because I like everybody in that movie because they all look very
No,
delicious.
no. Don't get me wrong. Like I enjoyed it a lot. I'm a big fan of Anya Taylor-Joy. I've enjoyed everything that she's been in so far that I've seen, and uh, and I really like Alexander Skarsgård. I've
Yeah, I really like him
enjoyed
too.
him since True Blood,
Yeah, I really like
where
him
he
too.
played a man named Eric Northman. So
Nothing wrong with that. So
no. Hey, I'll admit he's a fine looking man. So
that's a gorgeous specimen. I'm just gonna leave that there on the table. I always have to bring sweat to your show.
yeah, you always do. Always
I
bringing the
can't
smut.
help it. I mean, people are gorgeous. I'd be a fool not to look. While I have eyes, I'm looking. But
Exactly.
I like just just to let you know, these two movies, I cannot think of a director that has made two movies back to back that I've been like, holy crap, these are phenomenal. And it's rare that you get
Yeah.
movies that have that kind of rewatchability and that still unnerve you. And I even know when these things are going to happen to these people, and I still jump and I still get. That's one of my favorite things about great horror movies or great movies in general. If it can still give me
Right.
that same little kid feeling when I watch it,
Right.
it's definitely a favorite.
Yeah. That's what I like about these movies is that that creepy factor. And that it's done in such a good way that you like I said, you're just unnerved the whole time. And any movie that can accomplish that for me is always going to be always going to get high props from me. But I would say there's so rarely that anything really does that because everybody's going for the more literal scares. and it just doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And I think that's his only other contemporary that I think does it just as well is Jordan Peele.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
and Jordan Peele also has that way of unnerving you, with both, with his first two movies, and even with Nope. We'll get into Nope another time, but um, all three of those movies are just weird enough in each one of them to keep you unbalanced, just like these two movies do.
Yeah,
And
I
that's what
totally
I
agree.
enjoy about them. So
That's what I enjoy about them too. And the first watching, like we always say, is just to enjoy it. And then when you watch it the second
yes,
time, you're kind of dissecting it more. And then by the third and fourth time, you're finding all of these new, fresh things on it. So peeling back that kind of onion layer on all of these films, to me, that's what great cinema does. You have these great conversations. You talk about the movie and what it means to you, and different, your take on it might be different than mine, and mine might be different than yours, but I love the fact
yeah,
that we can have that dialogue about it, because I just love talking about movies, and I love learning what other people get from them, and kind of what inspires them to make these kind of movies. I really would like to get into his head and see
yeah,
what makes him tick, because when you see him, he looks very normal. Not that I expect directors
yeah.
to look abnormal, but he just looks like a
Right, right.
regular person, and he doesn't look like a rock star. He's not all tatted out and
Yeah,
piercings everywhere. He's just a regular person. So I would like to know what starts these kind of themes in his head. Has he gone through grief or trauma himself? I mean, everybody has gone through
right.
something, but why these particular themes? And there's a lot of similarities between the two that I really gravitate towards
Yes,
watching them. So I
absolutely.
I don't know. I enjoy them, and like we said, I know we'll be talking about whatever the next one turns out to be. We'll probably be talking about that too. But is there anything else we can say about Midsummer or Hereditary?
I do want to mention we didn't get a chance to talk about it on this episode, but we were going to, and we were going to be talking about Ari Aster's short films as well. You should search those out. They are all available on YouTube. Just do a search for Ari Aster shorts, and you will find them all. And they are a mixed bag at best. Some are just dumb, but some are. One is extremely uncomfortable. I'm
Yeah,
actually not going to tell you which one because I want you to be surprised. And
and
but there's some that I think are really good. Even the really uncomfortable one is really good. It's just really uncomfortable.
it's really uncomfortable.
Um,
You're gonna need a palate cleanser after. Like you're seriously gonna need something funny after that.
yeah, yeah. So once you find that one, watch that one, and then watch something funny on YouTube. You know, watch cats or
Yeah, like
watch
stat. You need
animal
to watch
fails or something.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Watch something funny afterward because
Yeah, we're not gonna tell you, but you'll know when you
yeah,
watch it.
you'll know when you watch it. Yeah. But I mean the others are kind of a kind of range. That There some that are more shocking than others, and it's you can see the all of these were made before Hereditary and Midsommar, so you can kind of see some groundwork being laid there.
Yeah,
His
you definitely can
sensibilities.
see the path that he was going to end up going,
Yeah.
and also how skillful he was in a lot of these shorts, because
Yeah.
some of these short films, they probably could have been
They
made
look
into, not
great.
the one we were
Yeah.
talking, not the cringe one that we're talking about, but the
Ooh,
rest of them could have been made into a
yeah.
really good film.
Yeah.
um yeah, definitely check out the shorts, because we were going to talk about them, but we decided probably let you go and watch them yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, I have nothing else to say. And if you are all good, we can wrap it up here.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we had a pretty good breakdown of both of them, and
Yeah.
now I kind of want to go and watch them again.
Yeah. Oh, and I would suggest too that if anybody has the means and you don't already have it, um A24 shop has the director's cut of Midsummer in a special deluxe edition, that comes with a book that has a bunch of the artwork that you see in the movie.
It's lovely.
So
I bought
it
that one.
is. Me too. I actually recently upgraded mine because I originally bought the Blu-ray, and so I upgraded mine. I bought a new one of the 4K version. So
Ooh, swanky.
yeah. So I've been upgrading a lot of my movies, so I got a lot of stuff on 4K
nice.
now.
Well,
So,
you know,
yeah.
I think it was also streaming on Apple TV. So if you don't want to buy it, I think the
Yeah.
director's one was on there as well.
Yeah, I think it's available for rent
For
on
rental.
Apple TV.
Yep.
I know it was available for rental on Amazon like not too long after it first came out, but I don't know if it's available there anymore. So Donna's always great about remembering where things are streaming and not. I never remember all that to add that to the show. And for anybody who isn't listening to Donna's show, Donna, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
So let me see. Anywhere you can find podcasts, I have one that is called Donna Tha Dead, and that is Donna_THA_dead, like dead as disco.
And you can follow her on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, but I'm never on
also
Twitter,
at
but
that
you
name.
can still follow me.
You pop up once in a while.
Every now and then.
Yeah. You just got to remember to get over there and post your stuff.
I will do my best, sir.
That way I can retweet it.
Well, thank you, sir, for having me on yet again. It was always fun, always a good time. I will be happy to be back. I always tell you I'll
you'll
come
be back
whenever
soon.
you say.
You will be back soon because you're doing a Kevin Smith episode with me very soon.
Oh, did your check clear? Did you?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it did.
Then I'll be there.
There you go. See? All right. Well, we'll see you then. Thanks again to Donna for coming on the show. Next episode, Preston Fossil returns to talk about Night of the Comet and Night of the Creeps. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. You can follow the podcast on social media at Creepy and Geeky on both Twitter and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, I'm Geek Thulu on Twitter and geek.thulu on Instagram. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more from our TeePublic page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.